Hey everybody, and Tony here with a review of Wagner's Tristan und Isolde, which was filmed at the Bayreuther Festspiele from July 3 until July 9th, 1995, and was released to DVD by Deutsche Grammophon on July 8, 2008. The conductor was Daniel Barenboim. The production was done by Heiner Müller. The set design was done by Erich Fonda. The costume designer was Yoji Yamamoto. The chorus master was Norbert Balach, and the video director was Roland Hohlfeld. Now, when I first saw this DVD on sale at Borders or Best Buy when I was vacationing with my father and my brother in Waikiki, Hawaii, I was totally enthralled by this. I knew for a fact that this was going to be my Tristan und Isolde of choice because it contained two of my most favorite Wagnerian singers, the wonderful Heldentenor Siegfried and the equally wonderful Waltraud Meier. So I practically begged my father for me to purchase this DVD, and he relented because he knew that I was also a huge fan of these two singers, and a lot of these singers in particular, especially that of Daniel Barenboim. And when I popped this DVD into the DVD player, I was totally immersed into this production. It wasn't really like other productions of Tristan und Isolde, where there is like a lot of scenery, a lot of trees or backdrops and all that stuff. This production is very minimalist in its approach and how it managed to really convey its message, I would say, and even get a lot from the characters of this opera. So let's start off with what I thought about the production. I thought this production, well, it kind of made use of how it had to relate with the characters in terms of psychological relationships and an overall atmospheric tone. Sure, I would have loved to have a lot more sceneries, backdrops, designs of trees, rivers, forests, castles, ships, and all that stuff. But for what it was worth, the production really did a very great job in showing the characters' psychological relationships. As in, it really delves down into what the characters are feeling, how the characters are reacting to the whole situation around them, and the overall mood in this particular production. For example, in the first act, we start off supposedly on the ship. Now, the backdrop is usually like a reddish color, crimson-y color, with some warm colors matched here and there. Now, the second act takes place in a garden in King's Mark's castle. But in this production, it's basically like a blue-black stage with a lot of bluish hues being applied all around to basically use a really great night effect. And then in the final acts, we see that there is a lot of grayish and ashy tones applied throughout all of the scenery and the overall feel of that act. And then when Isolde sings her Liebestod, it's not necessarily a death scene, but it's basically like a transcendence scene in which Isolde is in nirvana after what she's experienced. And we see her dressed in gold, and we see what appears to be like the sun behind her as she basically has her soul transcend to nirvana. At least that's how I see it. So basically the production does a pretty great job in terms of getting into the psychology of each of the characters and how they feel, and in terms of the overall atmosphere of this particular production. And now we get to the singers, the very part I am very excited to talk about, and especially if you have a very great Tristan and Isolde like Siegfried and Waltraud Meier. Don't get me wrong, there were a lot of other great Tristans like Wolfgang Wingassen and John Vickers, and especially the likes of the Isoldes being Astrid Varnay and Birgit Nilsson. But when it comes to really great chemistry, you can't go wrong with the likes of Jerusalem and Meier in these parts. They have excellent chemistry, which is no surprise because these two specialize in a lot of the German repertoire. Yes, they've also ventured into the Italian repertoire, well, where Meier is concerned. But when it comes to singing Wagner, these two have absolutely fantastic chemistry. Now, Siegfried Jerusalem is a Heldentenor that has been very well known throughout time, singing a lot of the Wagnerian roles. His roles include that of Lohengrin, Walter von Stolzing, Tristan, Sigmund, Siegfried, Parsifal, and Loge. Yes, he also sang Idomeneo and even that of Aegist from Elektra and even that of Herodes from Salome. But when it comes to Wagner, he is definitely very well known in a lot of these roles. And with Tristan, he has a very fine and noble presence and a fine charisma that really makes him attractive both inwardly and outwardly. He has a certain grace and beauty that few other tenors can ever compare. And he sings his notes really well, and his acting, I thought, was just very superb. Waltraud Meier, what more can I say about her? She's excellent in this role. She sings her high notes really well, and her Liebestod is definitely divine, which is also no wonder why Isolde is definitely one of Waltraud Meier's calling cards. Yet sadly, as of, I would say, July of 2015, or maybe it was after July, she retired from the role of Isolde. Well, I guess I kind of knew her time was there to retire from this role, because Isolde is definitely such a tough part. It has a lot of high C's, and it has a lot of really, really great music for any hochdramatische Sopran. So it was definitely great seeing Waltraud Meier in this role, as she managed to really, really put everything in her character. And she had a very fine technique, singing very homogeneously throughout the low notes, the high notes, the middle register. Everything went together. And I really enjoyed these two as the main lovers. Singing the role of the maidservant Brangäne was the wonderful German dramatic mezzo Uta Priev, who was very well known in a lot of the contralto and even the high dramatic mezzo roles, from the contralto roles of Ulrika, Erda, and Clytemnestra. I'm not so sure if she sang Erda, but yeah, Ulrika and Clytemnestra, definitely she did sing, to the higher dramatic mezzo roles of Eboli, Amneris, and Fricka, to even some dramatic soprano roles like that of Celica from L'Africaine. She has a very fine technique, she has a very fine stage presence, and she was definitely wonderful as Brangäne, navigating all of her notes really well, with such aplomb, such finesse, and such beauty. And then we have the role of Covenal, Tristan's servant, sung by Falk Struckmann, who was very well known in singing a lot of the Heldenbariton roles like Don Pizarro, Talramund, and even that of Wotan from the Ring Saga. Nowadays, he is also singing a lot of the basso roles like Henry the Fowler from Lohengrin, and as of this year, he's going to be singing Fafner from Das Rheingold and Siegfried, Hunding from Die Walküre, and Hagen from Götterdämmerung. So basically, he's nowadays singing a lot of the basso, cantante, and nobile, profondo parts. Hearing him as Covenal, I thought he was pretty good. Yes, sometimes his singing can be kind of all over the place, but for what it was worth, he has a very fine voice. His acting may not be the greatest, but in terms of how he is as a singer, he does very well for Covenal. He has a very fine voice. and he can have a very fine presence on stage. And then we get to King Mark, sung by the German basso profondo Matthias Hölle, who's been very well known in a lot of the German repertoire, with some rare forays into the Mozart and even the Italian repertoire. But his German repertoire is pretty much his forte, singing the likes of Hunding and Fafner and Fasolt from the Ring Saga, and even that of Veit Pogner from Meistersinger von Nürnberg. So basically he has a very fine voice and an equally fine stage presence, and his monologue I thought was really, really well sung, with a sonorous and very much gorgeous timbre. Then we get to the smaller roles, starting with Melot, sung by yet another Heldin tenor, Paul Elming, who's been very well known singing the likes of Siegmund and Parsifal. With a role like Melot, it's definitely very thankless, and he managed to do a pretty good job with his role. He has a very fine timbre, and his singing I thought was really good, especially when he sang the offstage voice of the sailor. I thought he was very fine in that role as well. Then we have the likes of the helmsman, sung by Sandor Solyom Nagy, who has a very fine voice, even though this role is quite thankless, and Peter Maus as the shepherd, who is a very fine character singer, and I've been seeing Peter Maus a lot on stage at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. And here he was singing the role of the shepherd, and I thought he had a very fine voice. So overall, I definitely have to say that the singing for all these characters was impressive. Special kudos goes to Siegfried Jerusalem and Waltraud Meier for giving the most remarkable performances of this really wonderful couple. The conducting done by Daniel Barenboim was excellent. He is no stranger to the Wagner repertoire, and it definitely shows. So overall, I really have to see that this DVD is definitely worth it. And you can even watch this on YouTube. This particular production has been very great, especially if you have Jerusalem and Meier on the helm as these two wonderful characters. Well, that's it for this review of Tristan und Isolde from the Bayreuther Festspiele 1995, starring Siegfried Jerusalem and Waltraud Meier. Stay tuned much later where I review Bizet's Le Pêcheur de Perles, known in English as The Pearl Fishers, which is live streamed from the Metropolitan Opera House. So until then, see you later, everybody.